I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. Coming up in today's newscast, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu freezes a landmark deal at the Western Wall. The Israeli Air Force strikes Syria in retaliation, and we'll reveal the outlandish YouTube incident that's turning Israelis and Brazilians into best friends. Stay tuned for the latest news in Israel. A breaking development in the ongoing saga to secure an egalitarian prayer space at the Western Wall has just been announced. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has announced a freeze on the implementation of a government-approved plan to establish a pluralistic prayer space at the Western Wall. Netanyahu's decision has drawn strong praise from many of his ultra-Orthodox coalition members, particularly Minister of Agriculture Uri Ariel of the Jewish Home Party. Jewish Agency Chairman Natan Sharansky, on the other hand, has expressed deep-seated disapproval of the freeze, saying, quote, "Today's decision signifies a retreat from that agreement and will make our work to bring Israel and the Jewish world closer together increasingly more difficult." In 2016, the Israeli Supreme Court mandated the creation of an egalitarian prayer space despite strong opposition from Israel's ultra-Orthodox Jewish population. The Israeli Air Force struck several military targets in Syria last night, and it has all been caught on video. On Saturday afternoon, up to 10 mortar shells were launched into Israel from Syria, landing in an open area in the Golan Heights. Israel has responded to what the military is calling an attack on Israeli sovereignty with airstrikes against Syrian tanks and machine guns. It does appear that the shells in the Golan were crossfire from fighting between the Syrian regime and rebel factions, but the IDF says that it holds Assad responsible for attacks coming from Syrian territory. The army has released footage of the airstrikes. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights is saying that the reprisal attacks killed 2 Syrian soldiers, while the Syrian government is claiming that they killed several civilians, even though they have yet to present evidence. One thing is clear, however, the Israeli airstrikes are meant to send a message not just to Assad, but to his allies. Tensions seem to be rising between Israel and Hezbollah, and both sides are putting out messages that imply a messy future conflict. ILTV's Aaron Porce joins us with the scoop. Aaron?
So after the Second Lebanon War in 2006, the United Nations dispersed an interim force to prevent Hezbollah, the terror group that's stationed there, from rearming itself. Unfortunately, in the 10 years since then, Iran, Hezbollah's patron, has sent them tens of thousands of rockets, surveillance drones, and a lot of other military technology.
Now, what does that mean for the border with Israel?
I wouldn't start panicking or anything like that. There's just yet, Israel hasn't been sitting idly by either.
Right.
And just recently, a top Israeli official has indicated that we've been preparing for a conflict in the north. So the reason we are talking about this today and not when something has physically occurred is because of what the terror group's leader, Hassan Nasrallah, has recently stated. He just recently issued a brand new threat against the Jewish state. So let's check out my report and I'll tell you more.
Israel is now reportedly using European states that have relations with Iran to convey the message that Israel will not tolerate continued arming of the Lebanese terror organization. In response, the leader of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, is responding with his own threats.
ويجب أن يعرف العدو الإسرائيلي أنه إذا شن حربا إسرائيلية على سوريا وعلى لبنان فمش معلوم القتال يبقى لبناني إسرائيلي أو سوري إسرائيلي. هذا لا يعني أنني أقول أن هناك دول قد تتدخل بشكل مباشر، ولكن قد تفتح الأجواء لعشرات آلاف بل مئات آلاف المجاهدين والمقاتلين من كل أنحاء العالم العربي والإسلامي ليكونوا شركاء في هذه المعركة.
Nasrallah went on to indicate that Iran, the Assad regime, and possibly other Shiite fighters from Iraq, Yemen, Pakistan, and Afghanistan would flood into the fray, stating that the axis of resistance is all concerned in the same fate. The terror leader's words raise red flags for a few reasons. The main ones being that Hezbollah indeed has many fighters active in the Syrian civil war where they've been fighting for the Assad regime. The second is because Iran just gave the terrorist group around $70 million to pay salaries, as well as weapons that reportedly can hit anywhere in Israel, with more of both promised to be on the way. All those worries are non-starters, though, according to top Israeli officials. Last week, for example, Israeli Air Force head Amir Eshel said on a conference in Herzliya that the Air Force would be the first to respond to any Hezbollah provocation, and that, quote, what the Air Force was able to do quantitatively in the Lebanon war over the course of 34 days, we can do today in 48 to 60 hours, end quote.
Joining me now in the studio to discuss the ongoing tensions between Israel and Hezbollah is Dr Molokai Cadell, who served for 25 years in the IDF military intelligence and is an expert in Israeli-Palestinian relations. All right, thank you so much for coming in.
Pleasure, Natasha.
Let's begin. How serious are these threats that we're hearing from Nasrallah?
Well, it becomes more serious every single day, because what happens is that during the last couple of weeks, Iran is streaming forces to Syria. And today Syria and Lebanon are the same front, actually. There is no border. Means Hezbollah is in both, and actually the Hezbollah forces in Syria are bigger than what they are in Lebanon. So we should view Hezbollah and Iran as two sides of the same coin, with air bases.
So the question then is, how likely is it in the event that there is another war between Hezbollah and Israel that the rest of the Arab world is going to flock to support Hezbollah?
It all depends on how confident Nasrallah and his aides, the Iranians, feel, based on the space which they take from the Islamic State, and the permission which the Russians give them to stream forces to Syria. They already work in two air bases, one in Tadmor and one in Al-Sin, to the south from Tadmor. And they actually control more or less half of Syria. And this is their base today. Lebanon is small, Syria is much bigger. And Iran has no problem streaming as many forces as they want, tanks, missiles. And this is what the problem is, because today Iran starts in Tehran, continues into Iraq, through Syria, all the way to the sea. And this is what we see today. The Syrian tentacle of the Iranian octopus actually becomes thicker, heavier, and much more powerful.
So what is Russia's role in this then, specifically?
Russia couldn't care less, because Russia cares only about the interests of Russia. Russia wants the harbors on the sea, and that's what they have, a little state of the Alawis controlled by Russia, officially by Assad, and that's it. And today Syria is dismantled. There is this region of the Alawis controlled by the Russians. There is the Kurdish in the northeast. There is the Iranian parts which were taken from the ISIS, which will be toppled eventually. There is this strip in the north which belongs to the Kurds for the refugees. Now they are building another strip in the south for the refugees on the Jordanian border. Israel is its own interests, and actually Syria is like cut to pieces, and every country takes a part.
Now going back to the the hypothetical situation of another war between Hezbollah and Israel, what areas of Lebanon and Israel would be the most impacted in this war, given the current military capabilities that we're seeing Hezbollah has right now?
No, Hezbollah usually now is in areas which is rural areas or desert areas. Means they can pile as many weapons as they like. It doesn't come on the expense of any residents like in southern Lebanon, which is much more heavily populated area. And they can feel in Syria like at home, because nobody challenges them. The United States, I'm not sure that they care.
The United States only cares about
ISIS.
The towns along the Lebanese border, but are there other areas of the country that Israel is perhaps worried about?
No, it's not anymore the Lebanese border. They go to the Lebanese border, the Hermon, and goes down to the Golan all the way to Quneitra.
Right.
And this is today the front vis-a-vis Hezbollah.
Right.
And we have to change our mindset, because today parts of Syria are controlled by Iran/Hezbollah and some Shia militias which came from Iraq and Afghanistan. And this is what makes Nasrallah so confident that thousands of militia people will come whenever there is any confrontation with Israel.
Well, it looks like we've run out of time, unfortunately, but thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Molokai Cadell. All right, it's been a few days since Israel began reducing electricity to the Gaza Strip following the demands of Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas. But now the Israeli energy minister is calling for Israel to restore full power to the coastal enclave. Energy Minister Yuval Steinitz claims that Israel is being manipulated by Abbas. A report on Israel's Channel 2 News shows Steinitz saying that Israel shouldn't be giving the Palestinian leader a hand, and that it's unacceptable for him to be determining Israel's actions. Steinitz says that if the Palestinians don't have the money to pay for electricity, he'd rather cut service to Ramallah, the capital of the Palestinian Authority. In his view, Israel does not want a humanitarian disaster in Gaza. Abbas is seeking to pressure his rivals in the Gaza Strip and possibly force them to step down. But some are concerned that further deterioration in the Strip's living conditions could mean conflict with Israel. The PA claims that the Israeli occupation and the siege of Gaza are the reasons behind the crisis. U.S. President Donald Trump has been making a peace agreement between Israel and the Palestinians a top priority of his administration, but it looks like he might be ready to backtrack on that. There have been numerous reports that when Jared Kushner, Trump's senior advisor and son-in-law, went to meet with the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas last Thursday, the meeting was tense. Al-Hayat, quoting senior Palestinian sources, has reported that Abbas was furious with the U.S. for relaying Israeli demands to halt payments to imprisoned terrorists and their families. Abbas reportedly accused Kushner and Jason Greenblatt of taking Israel's side. Now Al-Hayat is saying that Trump may be reconsidering his push for a big deal between the Israelis and the Palestinians. Anonymous senior Trump officials are denying the report, but it's clear that there's tension between the Palestinian Authority and the White House. Trump's meeting with Abbas in May was also reportedly dramatic, with the president accusing the Palestinian leader of lying to his face over his support for terrorism. The Iranian president had to flee an anti-Israel rally in Tehran after the crowd turned hostile, and it sounds like tensions between him and the supreme leader of the Islamic Republic are running high. Every year, the streets of Tehran fill up on Al-Quds Day with enraged Iranians calling for the end of Israel. But this year, President Hassan Rouhani had to flee to his car after protesters shouted slogans comparing him to the first Iranian president. In the early 1980s, Abul Hassan Banisar got on the Ayatollah's bad side for not being part of his Islamic fundamentalist bloc and was exiled from the country. With Banisar gone, there were no major political figures challenging the Ayatollah's political and religious hegemony. Now Rouhani's been drawing public criticism from the current supreme leader Ali Khamenei. The Ayatollah is warning Rouhani to not polarize society into two camps, as he says Banisar did. Banisar recounted to The Guardian how during his time they closed down universities and carried out executions to undercut the civil society and make it passive. He says that Khamenei is worried that he lacks popular support. Until the Islamic Revolution, Iran and Israel had very close relations, but now Iran is the leading sponsor of violence against Israel. The German Foreign Ministry is comparing Israel's treatment of European-funded NGOs to Russia and China, which are some harsh words from a traditional ally. ILTV correspondent Max Keisler is here with more on the story. Now, Max, what should we be reading into this?
Now, let's take a step back. This is the German Foreign Ministry. Now, that's Sigmar Gabriel's Foreign Ministry. This is the same Sigmar Gabriel who went to Israel, met with these radical NGOs, sparked a whole fight with Netanyahu. The same Sigmar Gabriel who's called Israel a practitioner of an apartheid regime. He's not trying to change Israeli policy. He wants to be seen in conflict with Israel because German elections are coming up, and he's one of the leaders of the SDP party.
So you're saying, in other words, that his party could benefit from this? I
think that's their analysis. Listen, for a lot of German voters, when they see someone attacking Israel, attacking Israel's moral stature, that can be a reason to vote for them. This whole NGO spat, I think it really comes down to politics. But let's check out my report.
When Hungary passed a bill that banned foreign funding to NGOs, the German Foreign Ministry said they were joining the ranks of countries like Russia, China, and Israel. Foreign Ministry spokesman Martin Schäfer says that Israel obviously regards the funding of non-government organizations by donors from abroad as a hostile or unfriendly act. The 2016 NGO law requires Israeli NGOs that receive more than half of their funding from foreign sources to disclose that to the government. The Israeli embassy in Germany is requesting an explanation from the German Foreign Ministry. They say that transparency requirements for NGOs are customary in democracies, and members of Angela Merkel's Christian Democratic Union Party are calling Schäfer's comparisons divorced from reality and insensitive. The German government provides millions of euros a year to NGOs in Israel and the Palestinian Authority, including radical groups that promote boycotts of Israel and accuse the state of, quote, cultural genocide.
All right, any businessman will tell you that time is money and money is time. Well, one Israeli startup has created a new virtual assistant to help clients maximize their time. Joining me today in the studio are Yoni Rubin and Vered Hirschberg, the CEO and CFO of Ream Group. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, so tell us, what does your company do? What does Tendit do?
Well, Tendit is a platform from our group, Ream Group. It is an AI combined with a lot of experts that all you need is just to tap the button and ask your service whatever you need.
So it's kind of similar to Siri or Google Voice, but it's not exactly
yes,
the same,
it's
right?
hybrid.
So what makes it unique?
An hybrid. It's making an hybrid service. It's with people, with experts that can flag the problem and put the solution to the problem.
Interesting. So how did you come up with this idea?
He's the genius.
Yeah.
The genius behind it.
Well, when I tried to open an office, I'm a consultant many years, and when I got an offer about I need to contact salesmen, I need to contact equipment managers and get equipment, operator for the business, a lot of things, but Google just provide various things.
Right, like separate answers instead of everything together. Interesting. So you said, why not have one service, one button that gives you everything at once?
Everything, all the solutions.
Interesting. So what is next for the company?
We are planning right now to do also a language learning through the application. It's also provide a service, a full office service, like a secretary, fax, mail, everything you need.
Interesting.
Already right now.
Okay.
And we want to do it worldwide, not only in Israel. Except that, we also want to have communicate with government institution.
Right, so beyond just a small local business, but larger institutions as well.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, it seems like you guys are certainly on the right path. I mean, I would love to be able to push a button that gives me all the answers to my problems. So I can't wait to see where your company goes. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
All right, we just can't seem to stop talking about it, or should we say her. Gal Gadot's performance as Wonder Woman is turning out to be such a huge success that it's about to become one of the biggest moneymakers in theaters this year. ILTV's Emmanuel Kadosh is here to give us the scoop. Thanks for joining us, Emmanuel.
Of course, this is one that I am not planning on missing, talking about Gal Gadot. You know, we grew up in the States, and the one representative that we had, like, in the industry, in the entertainment industry, was Gal Gadot and Bar Refaeli. So seeing her, you know, in Castro commercials, in the Fast and Furious movie, and now officially blowing up Hollywood and being on the big screen for Wonder Woman.
And, you know, even though we already loved her, I think that all the raging feminists inside of us are already excited about the fact that there is a Wonder Woman, and she happens to be Israeli, and obviously it's having a huge monetary impact. I mean, 100%. This movie is making a lot of money.
It is making a lot more than a lot of money. It is close to, you know, one of the top ones to go out recently. It is close to $660 million so far.
Right, and that could make it one of the top grossing films
in 2017. Yes, for sure.
All right, well, let's check out your report.
Let's do it. With the overwhelming amount of success, this film could in turn become the highest-earning live-action film by a female director of all time, thanks to director Patty Jenkins. The superhero movie is set to surpass the $665.7 million garnered by the 2011 animated sequel Kung Fu Panda 2, directed by Jennifer Yu Nelson. Having absolutely topped all expectations, reviewers are gushing over the Israeli superstar Gal Gadot, describing her performance as electric, which of course, to everyone here in Israel, is simply not a surprise.
Now, Emmanuel, what's interesting about this story is that this film is having so much financial success, yet Gal Gadot's salary doesn't seem to be comparing to her male counterparts from other superhero films.
Right, okay, so it's rated, it's supposed to be ranked one of the top earning films in 2017, yet she reportedly only made $300,000 on this film.
Interesting, how could that be?
So yes, a lot of people would say that's absolutely ridiculous. I would say that's absolutely ridiculous. She didn't even make $500,000. The movie made $650 million.
Right, and then we see other superheroes. I think the upcoming Batman film, the man who was playing Batman made $14 million, something like that.
So
I can't remember the exact.
it was a little sketchy. The report was a little sketchy. Like all the facts weren't all there, but you can definitely expect that her next movie, first of all, will definitely bring in a lot more money, and she will definitely have, you know, some leverage on her salary for the next movie.
Well, let's hope, because we love her and she's amazing.
And she deserves it.
And she deserves it. All right,
Definitely.
Thanks for joining us, Emmanuel. Now, speaking of mind-blowing stories, here's a crazy story. What some may call a love story is blossoming between Israel and Brazil, and it all started because of a Brazilian YouTube star named Felipe Neto.
Hello, people from Israel.
On his show just a week and a half ago, Neto began looking through YouTube videos trending around the world. And when he started focusing on Israel, things started to get really interesting. The first video he clicked happened to be a famous song in Israel right now called Tudo Bom, which means all good in Portuguese. Let's just say he couldn't believe that the Israeli song he had clicked on was full of so many references to his home country of Brazil.
Primeiro em alta em Israel, parece que é uma música. Mano, é sobre o Brasil, meu moleque! O clipe do maluco de Israel é sobre o Brasil. Já falou de São Paulo, caipirinha, cachaça e carnaval, tá? É por isso que a gente é famoso.
That's when things got crazy. After sending his Brazilian followers towards the Israeli video clip, Tudo Bom's popularity skyrocketed. Neto's original reaction clip then began to trend in Israel too. Both Israelis flooded Neto's comment section with love from Israel, and under the Israeli music video, even more Brazilians responded the same way, with some even writing that it was the best pop song they'd ever heard. In fact, as of now, the Israeli group's video has been viewed nearly 16 million times, which is higher than the population of Israel itself. Now, in response to the incredible reaction, Neto's released another reaction video, this time thanking his new Israeli audiences and even trying to speak some Hebrew.
So first of all, I want to send huge kisses for everyone in Israel. I never got so many support from another country besides Portugal. So it is really exciting for me, and I'm really happy. So I decided to make this special video for you, where I'm going to try to talk your language. I'm going to try to talk Hebrew. Let's see what's going to happen. Let's start easy. Hello, good morning.
נקודה, שלום, בוקר טוב.
נקודה. Shalom. Kote, bro. What? I want a pizza.
אני רוצה פיצה.
Where's the bathroom?
איפה השירותים?
That's a very short sentence. I think you're missing some words there. Say it again.
איפה השירותים?
איפה השירותים? I need food.
אני צריך אוכל.
Dude, stop scratching your throat. I just want to speak. If you give me an opportunity to go to Israel, I'll go, and I will show to Brazil all the beauty and majestic things that are in Israel. And I'm not being sarcastic. I really think it's a really, really beautiful and awesome country. Who knows? Maybe I'll go to Israel.
Please take me with you.
No.
After all this is said and done, we're pretty sure Neto will be very well received in the Holy Land. It looks like we might want to start leaving our governments out of the picture when it comes to improving diplomatic relations. After all, Israel and Brazil seem to have already embarked on a whole new love story.
Enroll in eTeacher's online Hebrew courses and quickly discover that it creates the deepest connection to Israel that you could ever imagine.
And now for our Hebrew word of the day. Sometimes you just have to get to the point of things as quickly as you can, so today's word is nekuda, which means period or point in Hebrew. Literally speaking, a nekuda is just a dot. That's why it's used to describe just about anything that a dot represents. So at the end of your sentences, you put a nekuda or a period. When developing an argument, you think about all the different nekudot or points to that argument, and in mathematics, you might be plotting a nekuda on a graph. No matter what the situation, though, just remember that you can't go wrong when you stick to the nekuda. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. Tonight should be partly cloudy with a low of 72 or 22 degrees Celsius. Tomorrow temperatures are set to rise, so you can expect an unseasonably hot and sunny day with a high of 88 or 31 degrees Celsius. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.54 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for watching.